Hello, I'm Mark Nolan in the Office of Corporate Relations at the University of Illinois, and while I guess that a lot of you may not have a lot in common with a overweight, middle-aged white guy who uses a cane and has gray hair, who's also from the East Coast, but I've actually been involved in some of this stuff for quite a while. I've been in universities for probably a dozen years of my life, and have been at the University of Illinois and Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore. But before that, I spent about a dozen years in the private sector with what I'd call a mid-sized services firm, about $1 billion corporation. After that, I was with a venture capital funded startup that was acquired by a mid-sized firm. After that, I worked for a Fortune 500 company for a number of years, and that division was then sold to a multinational conglomerate, and it was at that point that I went to the university environment and actually started developing the sort of phase 2 of a business for Johns Hopkins University that was actually leveraged on technology that was developed here at the University of Illinois, Mosaic. The creation of the most popular web browser. But what I wanted to cover was really seven things that I thought I'd discuss at sort of a high level that might have to do with venture creation, and that is that not all ideas that come out of a community need to be technology-based. The University of Illinois spends an incredible amount of time and a reasonable amount of money focused on technology-based economic development, but there are some great examples of successful businesses that are in no way technology-based. And actually, some of those have benefited the university greatly. And I think of the philanthropic giving that has come from people who have made just an incredible amount of money in beer, which is certainly not technology, and also cooking and chef-like appliances that have benefited the university. So it shouldn't all be about technology-based businesses. There are multiple types of businesses that can be created in a community. I also think that this community has an incredible entrepreneurial environment. There is an ecosystem, an entrepreneurial ecosystem, something that many people say, that has developed here over the 9 years that I've been here, that is really sort of incredible to watch. And there is a community culture around new venture creation that does not always just include the university, but is elsewhere in the community. There are some great examples of local success stories like iSight, which was recently acquired by Sony Corporation, or the Sony Group. There are people in the community who are involved in some of these enterprises that if you don't know, you really should meet. And some of the people that come to mind are in this room. But Rob Schultz at Illinois Ventures has been involved in startups and is involved in funding startups. Tim Hare, who's sitting at this first table here, has been involved. It actually was involved in iSight as well. Dennis Beard, another venture capitalist located in the community, who serves and is an advisor to small businesses and people with business ideas, but also not, even outside the management and finance area, there are some great resources in this community. And I'm thinking of a fellow by the name of Roland Garten, who has helped people write proposals to funding agencies, be they federal or otherwise, who are available, who understand what words help with the funding communities and get these things going. And we have that here in Champaign. If you don't know Tim Hare, If you don't know Roland Garten, if you don't know Rob Schultz, you really should connect with me and I will make an introduction to them. Speaking of people in the community, always look for people in the community that you might be able to engage with that are currently working on new ventures. And it's important because what you want to make sure that you do is not just talk to people who have gotten something going in the past, because the past is different from the present. You want to talk to people who have had success in getting something going now. And success is sort of a measured term, but I talk to people like Brian Cusick at R Systems, who has a facility in the Research Park and on Fox Drive. I talked to Aaron Wagner at Mesolink, Tim Roth at Mesolink, and there are a number of other people who have ideas. Those two businesses are tech-based, but Carlton Brewitt is a graphic designer in the community that has a niche idea around clothing that is really sort of a fascinating idea that could create a lot of manufacturing jobs in this community and certainly design jobs in this community which are not based on technology. I'd also talk to someone who is affiliated with the university, and he's here this evening, and his CEO, Bill Cope at Common Ground Publishing, located in Enterprise Works. Bill Cope is a research professor at the University of Illinois, has this business which he brought from Australia, which has sort of a services component to it, but also a technology component to it. And these companies, R Systems, Mesolink, Common Ground Publishing, those three alone have employed now have created about 50 new jobs in this community over the past 12, 18 months. And that's an important element of new venture creation. I'd also talk to, if you're affiliated with the university in any way, Michael Welge at R Systems, who works at NCSA, who started a company called Riverglass. So associate yourself with people who have had the experience of creating a venture now. You'll be able to, if you're not competing with them, you'll be able to leverage the understanding they have about the resources that are available in the community. Speaking of speaking with people in new ventures, very often, I was recently voted onto the board of a technology-based company in Idaho, and one of the challenges that company is facing is that they can't understand why they're failing. They have some executives that were, and I won't share the name of the business, they have some executives that they felt were going to go great guns for them. One fellow was from IBM and one fellow was from Microsoft. Well, sure, they've had all of this great experience working for a Fortune 500 company, but how does that relate to then having to call on a potential customer and you're working with a company, you're with a company or you've started a company that nobody's heard from. Fortune 500 companies have incredible resources. They provide incredible training to their employees. And that employee may learn some things having worked for that organization which will be of benefit to your new venture. But if that is the only experience that they have, they probably don't know how to bootstrap and they're probably not very resourceful. They're probably not going to be able to open the door of a potential customer because using the name IBM or using the name Microsoft or Oracle can open a lot of doors. If you're calling from ABC Company in Champaign, Urbana, make sure that you're working with someone who has had success in opening those doors. To be clear, the disclaimer is that I don't want to say that working for a major corporation is a bad idea, but it's not the only experience one should have in starting a new venture. The other thing I wanted to touch on is that not all new ventures, I've talked about businesses, not all new ventures have to be private or for-profit businesses. There are some really incredible examples that are affiliated with universities and in this community that are new ventures that are employing a great number of people that are not for-profit businesses. And from my own experience, I worked on the development, the phase 2 development of something called Project Muse at Johns Hopkins University. And this is an electronic scholarly journal program that's providing electronic scholarly content in the arts, humanities, and social sciences to universities all over the world. It is a not-for-profit business, but it's employing a great number of people. Within this community, the HDF group down in the research park, founded by Mike Folk. Mike Folk was a research scientist at NCSA. He developed some open source software with some others, and that is now a not-for-profit business. There's a new venture, a not-for-profit business down in the research park. There's a new venture down in, or actually at M2, here in downtown Champaign, called the Community Center for Adaptation. There's also the Illinois Green Business Association, also located at M2 in downtown Champaign. These are examples of people that have some great ideas that they wanted to see flourish, that they wanted to be self-sustainable, but are not necessarily for-profit businesses. So it doesn't always, new venture creation doesn't always have to be a for-profit business. Number 6, people talk about job security, golden handcuffs, and the fear of starting a new business. There is no such thing as job security. Get over it. We've all looked at Fortune 500 companies and communities that have pulled out and left people unemployed. You can read it in our own newspaper here. So there is no more job security at a major corporation than there would be at a new venture. Indeed, there's probably greater control and input that a person would have in a new venture than there would be dealing with the major Fortune 500 company. Relative to the golden handcuffs, people talk about staying in the enterprise they're in because they've got great benefits, health care, or vacation days. I think we're all seeing that those things are sort of dwindling away for a great number of employees. Pension plan benefits are being changed, health care benefits are becoming more expensive if you're in a large plan, and vacation days. If that major entity, be it a major corporation or even a university, lets you go, you'll have plenty of time on your hands. It would always be good to be prepared for what next. And finally, failure. I think the one thing that this community and other communities need to get over is the fact that failure, there's a belief that failure is a negative thing. And failure is not a negative thing. You know, in a scholarly pursuit, proving that something is wrong is as valuable as proving that something is correct. And failure provides a lot of educational opportunity for the person that has experienced that. And there is, we need to have a community that understands that if a person failed at one venture, it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll fail at the next venture, and indeed, perhaps they will have learned something in that experience that they'll avoid in the future, that they'll do right the next time. So there is educational value to failure, and I'll close with that. I met with Max Levchin, who some of you may know or may be familiar with. He's a University of Illinois computer science graduate who founded PayPal, and then sold that to eBay, and then started and was CEO and founder of Slide, and I believe has since sold that to Google. And one of the things that he said to me was that he believed that Silicon Valley viewed him as a successful entrepreneur because of PayPal and now because of Slide. But he wasn't considered a seasoned or truly valuable entrepreneur because he hadn't had a failure. Again, I'm Mark Nolan. If I don't know you, I'd love to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark, for kicking us off this evening, for pointing out that we have a very strong culture here in our community around venture creation, and we have a community. And actually, this evening you're going to get to meet